Okay, welcome to the adventures of Artemis and Athena. I'm Artemis, that's Athena, and today, in case you can't tell, we're talking about pinup or retro style.
And we like to call it retro style because I think pinup has such a sexualized connotation and such a narrow viewpoint, where I think our community is more about retro fashion in all
Not
its
retro
aspects.
morals.
Yes, not retro morals. In all its aspects. So we're going to use the terms interchangeably because mainstream does use the retro community and call it a pinup. And that's just for ease of conversation. But I think we both agree that we prefer retro vintage community.
Yeah. And we want to start off by saying, the vintage and retro community is not just for women. It is for women identifying, it is for males, it is for male identifying, it is for non-binary, it is for everyone.
Regardless of age, shape, sexuality, race, it is for everyone. It is fashion, it is style, it is not morals.
Yes. So, let's just jump right in, shall we? We're going to start with Athena and a quick intro to the history of pinup/retro styles.
Like I'm trying to do this in a minute and a half. So, it is not your historical note-taking time. This is just to give you an idea of the history and how we got to here. Ready?
Ready? And 3, 2, 1, go.
So you can go back to the pinup idea as far back as around the 1880s and the Gibson Girl idea. The Gibson Girl became this super sexualized, super heightened idea of femininity and feminine beauty. I mean, I can say Gibson Girl now and we all know what that looks like. Then we move on to World War I, and you see women start to show up in propaganda posters, recruitments for men and women into the armed service. So we're starting to hit that. Then we hit World War II. And sort of that World War II era, the 30s and the 40s, you start to see the Esquire. You start to see the idea of centerfolds, the drawings of women. And this idea comes about as a morale booster for the men serving, to keep them motivated and distracted in some ways from war and from death. So you see them in pockets and lockers. Nose art becomes a big thing on the bombers, which is a fascinating subject. And then we go into the 50s. The 50s, you have the Playboy world. You have Marilyn Monroe. You have the heightened Hollywood glamour. And we start to see that echo into what we term as pinup today. But it has a very rich history. So now we're in today, and I did that in less than a minute and 30.
Yes, you did. You have 7 seconds left.
7! I could have kept going. So that was just a brief timeline to get to where we're at.
Yes.
There's so much more in the history of it, but...
And where we're at is there are so many styles of vintage styling that you can do. We're going to briefly go into some of the more popular styles, especially ones that you see around here in the Midwest. But keep in mind, this is not all that there is to offer. I think we're going to talk about, 5 or 6, something like that.
So the big hitters.
But yeah.
What we think of as a retro, we're going to touch on the different key points of those styles. Yeah.
Yes. So
the first one is the one I think mainstream media and mainstream public and society think of as the retro community, and that's what they call cheesecake.
Yes.
Very weird term. I think of as cheesecake as a food that goes in my belly. um, not as a outfit. But it is the colorful petticoats. It's the circle skirts and the dresses and the pastels and the prints and the flowers and the hair and the cool heels.
It's the very 1950s June Cleaver, Lucy Ricardo, even into the early 1960s Samantha and Bewitched styles. You could even go as far as like I Dream of Jeannie, but that's kind of getting into more of the niche markets. But it's the idea of like the big petticoats and the circle skirts, the crins, and it's almost like you just want to take your outfit and just do bloop, like a little dollop of frosting on the top of a cupcake. And it's honestly where most of us in the vintage retro community have started, because that's what is most mainstream.
Yeah, it's very much a touchstone. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that was my first outfit into the retro community, because I started off with a military pinup, because I am a reenactor as well. But it's certainly one that when you want to evoke that idea, you default to. And and when it's done fantastically. And there are girls who rock that out like none other. However, am not that girl. I look awkward as all get out.
There are women who live comfortably in that cheesecake pinup land, and that's valid. I think for me, that's where I started. I started doing this kind of retro vintage deal when I was 16 years old. I grew very big very quickly. I was being bullied for my curves because I was 16, and what else do you do in a small Midwest town when you're different? And I realized I didn't look like my friends, and I needed to find something that fit my body, that hid all of the bits that I wanted to cover while still being myself. And I think that's kind of where my journey started.
Yeah, and I think it's where a lot start. So cheesecake is a big one. The other big one that I think a lot of people start in as well, and probably where I started in and where I sing and sweet spot it a lot, is the rockabilly. And like I said, this is a term I think we all kind of know.
Yeah.
At least that we've heard it in conversations.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting style, because it stems from 50s rock music, and really that's the sweet spot for it. It's the gingham, it's the jeans, it's the bandanas, it's the jackets, it's the diners, and the garage, and
it's the Grace Monkey feel.
Yeah.
I know for me, the music is what got me into it. I can remember being in 4th grade, so what's that, 10, 9, 10?
Little
teeny tiny.
Little Billy.
Going, I love Elvis, I think he's cute. And that was it. Like, I started going to Elvis Fest, I started looking at all of the people who were there, and like to this day, the Elvis tribute artists know me. I've been going since I was 10. So that's like 17 years of going.
It's a very iconic style, and I think it's one that is a nice touch point for entry if you're not that petticoat girl.
If you're, and for me, I started in like the cheesecakey kind of feel, but I quickly realized after I met Athena and started doing, car shows and air shows and all sorts of, pin-up-y, quote-unquote, events, the kinds of photography that I wanted to take and how I wanted to highlight me was not conducive to, layers of crinoline and, pastel colors. I definitely gravitated towards, the rock and roll shirts, the black leather, jackets, the bright red, the black and red kind of color scheme is very indicative of the rockabilly style.
And it almost you also have touches of punkabilly.
Yeah.
Which is a little harder. This is where I really, despite how I look right now, I kind of did some lighter tones for the video. But the punkabilly is a little harder, a little darker in color tones and schemes. It's a little
more messy.
Because I'm not a polished person. Like, we lucky we got a roll today. And you do see these you see some fishnets in the gloves. Yeah. You see the dark t-shirts like she's wearing. And it does have a little more casualness to it than even the rockabilly does.
And the thing with rockabilly, rockabilly and the other subsectors that I lovingly call the billies, they all kind of root from, not being the cheesecake.
They come from a rebellious culture.
Yeah.
If you think about rock was a rebellion, the punk is a rebellion. Yes. You can even go so far as psychobilly, which is not one I dabble in, but I adore when people do it well. And that comes from the horror films.
Yeah, the B movies, guys. Creature from the Black Lagoon, Swamp Thing, Bride of Frankenstein, Vampira, Nosferatu. All of those, awesome 1930s, 1940s, and 50s horror
Very
movies.
Campy horror movies.
Campy, yes.
But when it's done well, I mean, with the hair
freaking cool.
And the makeup that is done with psychobilly, I love it. And you don't see it a lot in the Midwest as much. No. There's a few very specific events for it, but I love it. So if you want to go that route, please do. I
think with the billies, you see an exaggerated makeup profile. Mine's pretty true to rockabilly, but it's definitely darker than something you would see in a cheesecake style. You've got the super defined brows.
It's stemming from pop culture of some sort.
Yeah.
Psychobilly, rockabilly, punkabilly, geekabilly is definitely pop culture. If you think of, and this has become quite popular recently, and it wasn't, is Dapper Day in Disney.
Yeah. Disney bounding.
Yes, where you take a character and you spin it into retro fashion, which, when it's done well, is really cute. I love it. We do it a lot for Comic Cons when I don't feel like putting a full cosplay on. And it's great. It's fun.
And it's a great way to get small human beings into it.
Especially if you have children and you want them to come to an event and they're like, no, I don't want to. And you're like, well, we can dress you up like Buzz Lightyear. And then you give them this kind of retro spin on Buzz Lightyear. And I go crazy over it. I think it's adorable.
Well, and it's a way to get the younger generation in without over-sexualizing everything, because I feel like, the more adult versions of everything can kind of go that hypersexualized route, whereas, geekabilly, just put them in a little Dapper Day suit, and you really don't need to worry about being hypersexualized.
And that's for adults too. If you really don't want to you don't want to show off your figure or something like that. I think geekabilly, I think cheesecake is also a really great way to do that and still be a part of the communities. Because the flip side is doing something that's very form-fitting. Yeah. And that's where you get glam. And you get more of a goth. You have gothabilly. I feel like a lot of people who do goth retro have this very old Hollywood film noir.
Yes, very sophisticated and chic.
Which I love, but I could pull off for about 2 seconds before I fell down or did something stupid.
And guys, we're coming at this from, our perspective. We're the dorks that you'll see at a car show with a live band dancing like no one's watching.
Most of my photo shoots are outtakes because I'm doing something ridiculous. But we're also performers, and I think that's just part of
That's part of our chemical
We're
makeup.
gonna make you giggle. But we have friends that do glam like crazy well. We're talking like the sleek dresses and the beautiful hats and the hair that's perfectly styled. That just
and that's not us.
So sophisticated, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to be them. And then I fall on my face, and then I'm not them.
Yeah. Well, and then the flip side is, some people who may do, old Hollywood glam really well may want to try, the Billies, and they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. This is not
who I am.
Something that I am used to doing. And I think that's where we all as a community need to, improve on and be like, hey, just try it. If it doesn't work, go back to your style the next time.
Right.
And I've had my fair share of that. Like, I can safely say jumpsuits are not my thing.
I would love a jumpsuit, but I'm 5'10", so they never work out.
But jumpsuits are not
part
not
of the
Artemis's thing.
I think is trying something, because that's part of how we outside of the retro community in our daily life. That's how we pick clothes.
Yeah, we evolve, guys. We're not a stagnant being.
And we pick clothes that we feel good in, we feel comfortable in. The same is for retro community. Don't feel like you have to pigeonhole yourself into a style. I mean, I love punkabilly and I love rockabilly, but I love hair flowers. So I will be full on punk and then have a bright pink hair flower. And I don't care. I'm wearing my hair flower.
Like, for me, I tend to stay pretty in my little rockabilly world, but I'm still going to have some kind of geeky accessory, whether it be a Captain America shield necklace or, a bandana wrapped around my wrist when I'm in full cheesecake. Like, it's...
So find what works for you. And that's why we really wanted to do this, is that there are so many styles.
And be unapologetically you. That's the thing.
Don't wear heels if you hate them and they hurt your feet. Like, I love heels. I rarely wear them to events because I just can't do it. And that's okay. Don't force yourself into that platform heel if you hate them.
Well, and
get a super cute saddle shoe, or even a Keds.
Or you could even, if you like Chucks and you're going to a car show where you're going to be like walking up and down stairs, or it's an outdoor show, rock a pair of Chucks. Like, there is,
even with your cheesecake dress,
you could easily do a greaser look with a pair of jeans and Chucks.
And like I said, you could do cheesecake with Chucks. Get those cute little bobby socks with the lace around the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly cheesecake. And then your feet won't hurt at the end. But likewise, if you're like, dude, I love my heels, I'm going to rock my heels. Rock your heels.
And, as Athena can attest, I've been known to bring 2 pairs of shoes. Like, I pop the heels on if we're taking photos, and I pop them right back off.
I'm so not about that life. I'm so punkabilly. I'm like, no.
And I'm getting...
This is what I'm wearing. This is what I brought. You're going to get it or you're not. I don't care.
And the thing is, I love the idea of heels. I just don't wear them in my everyday life. So my feet tend to throw hissy fits. But I'm still going to wear them for a couple of photos. And then if I get bored with them, they're just going to go in my bag.
So like adapt it to who you are.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want to say, is adapt.
Right. You don't have to be. You don't have to be just a cheesecake pinup or a cheesecake person in the retro community. One day you can be that complete, dollop of frosting on top of the cupcake one day, and then be a complete total Victorian gothabilly style the next. It's all subjective. And it's all valid, it's all creative, it's all art, and it's all beautiful.
And I think that's a great way to end that.
It's a nice little button there.
Here we go.
So, next week, we are going to kind of be diving into something that I tend to live in, which is makeup. And I don't know what we'll talk about. We're going to have fun.
Maybe I'll probably be you, audience, because this is like a 10-minute job and I don't spend a lot of time on it. So
maybe we'll do
the whole, tell me more, please, educate.
Maybe we'll do a quick makeup on myself. I'll start out with no makeup. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
I'll just be your voice.
I'll do it on live.
I'll help you out. So we're excited for that one. And we have a couple really interesting things in the pipeline. So.
And I know these first few videos seem kind of disjointed, guys. They are all going towards one kind of cohesive thought process. We will get there. Just hang with us. We promise you'll get there. So, until next time, I'm Artemis.
I'm Athena.
We will see y'all next time. Thanks for joining in.